Let's see. Hello, hello, hello. Let me try to get comfortable. Y'all, it's hot out here and I got my sweater on. I think for comfort. Is it not charging? It is, okay. Okay. I think I'm gonna give it just a moment. Just a moment. I am later today than I have been. Let's just take this off. I think today I just want to do a talk. Not preaching. I don't know if I want to say motivational or encouraging, but I just want to do a talk. Today has been a good day. Today has been a very peaceful day. Today has been a very joyous day. Not because anything in particular has happened, but I don't know. You know, I woke up today and my word continues to be the shift. It's the first day of July. We have survived the month of June, and I am just in this place of learning to be grateful and to take life literally one day at a time. As the Bible tells us, don't worry about tomorrow, because today has enough worries of its own. And I am learning to just be grateful that if I still have a life in my body, if there's still breath going through my lungs, then life is not as bad as it could be. No matter how hard the circumstances may be, no matter how pressed I may feel against the wall, no matter the issues that I think, are too big and that I can't see past, those mountains that just seem like they're so big that it's like, God, I got faith, but is it moving? Today is just a good day. And as I started my day, and I think I was driving, there was a statement, a word that came to me, and it was this: there is no delay without his approval. What felt like a setback is actually what is going to launch you forward. And I say it in that context, but it was more so like the Lord speaking to me himself, the Holy Spirit speaking to me, saying, there is no delay without my approval. And what felt like a setback is actually going to be the very thing that is going to launch you forward. And I couldn't do anything but sit with that. I couldn't do anything but find peace. I couldn't do anything but allow myself to smile inwardly and say, it's nothing but the truth. Anything that happens in our lives or anything that does not happen, it is without God's knowledge. It's not without his approval. And as I sat here, before pushing the button to go live, the scripture that has been sitting with me in the month of June particularly is Isaiah 60:22. When the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen. Sometimes in life, it's really that simple. When the time is right, the Lord will make it happen. There are some things, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how much preparation you have. It doesn't matter what you try to put your hands to. Some things just aren't going to happen. There are some things that it's not on you. It literally is on God. And as a woman, what came to my mind sitting here a few minutes ago was again the state of being barren. The women that we saw that were barren in the Bible. And it was the state of being barren always held great promise and great weight. The weight, W-A-I-T, had to do with God's divine timing. And some of the people that, came to my mind, it was Isaac, it was Joseph, it was Samson, it was Samuel, John the Baptist, Jacob and Esau. all of their mothers were barren. And once they did conceive and produce, it's like, look at what came from them. There was power, there was purpose, there was promise. And another scripture that I think about when it talks about barrenness, it's Isaiah 54, where basically there is that prophetic word of saying, hey, I know that you've been barren, but get ready, prepare yourself. And I feel like for some of us, that's where we've been, where the Lord has called us into things, where he's been preparing us, where he's allowed us to go through the conditioning. He's allowed for us to go through the process. And I say, like Sarah and Abraham waited for so long, but they weren't just waiting. God was taking them from the old. He was taking them to a new land. He was taking them to a place that he promised. There was a promise that was waiting for them, but there was absolutely nothing that they could do to fulfill the promise. The only thing that they could do was have faith. They could trust in God, and they could keep on moving when the Lord said move. That was all that they were responsible for. But there was absolutely nothing that they could do to fulfill the promise. There was nothing that they could do to make God move faster. Sarah tried to, help God and say, Abraham, hey, do this. It still didn't fulfill what God said was going to be fulfilled. And as I woke up today, as I sit in this brand new month in 2026, in my personal life, I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice but to reflect on what the last year has been for me. Because July 1st, 2025 was the first day that I went to be officially unemployed. Not unemployed because I was laid off. Not unemployed because I was fired. Unemployed because I heard the voice of the Lord. I quit. 2025. How old was I? 31 years old. Single mama. 2 kids. No plan, no strategy other than the simple things that the Lord told me to do. And I wasn't able to really do what he told me to do until I not just put in my notice, until I was officially no longer in the system. And I had to be out of the system for a certain amount of time before I could even utilize and have access to the means that he said, this is how you're going to live. But I knew that that wasn't going to be a permanent situation. I knew that there was limits on that because I knew that it was going to run out. And guess what? He didn't give me anything else. All I had was do what I said do. These are the instructions that I've given you. And the rest of it, the only thing that you can do is trust in me. The only thing that you can do is wait on me. The only thing that you can do is rest, because that's what he told for me to do. And so as I come on here today, that's the conversation. Knowing that your obedience, it's cost you something. But he didn't call you to do it without reason, and he didn't call you to do it without purpose. And as I sit in this day, I don't know. Last Wednesday, I was ready to quit. Last Wednesday, I was ready to throw in the invisible spiritual towel. And I had no idea what was waiting, what could be there. Today, there was a point where I wanted to literally shout. And I mean, like, praise God. I did it inwardly because it was just like, Ladisha, you made it out of June. Let me say this, in the spirit realm, I don't know what that represents. I made it out of June into July. Last July, the enemy tried to take me out. Last July, the Son Magun tried to kill me. But this is the thing. He did everything that he could at the end of June to try to get me to knock myself out. He did everything that he could at the end of the month for me to not want to go forward. Let me say this. I don't know exactly what God has for me. I don't think any of us knows specifically what he has for us. God will show us a glimpse, and he will give us a vision, and he'll tell us just enough to get us, to make us want to run and chase after what he said for us. But what I have learned is by the time we get there, it is so much more than what we anticipated. It is so much bigger than what we anticipated. And I look at this in my life and I say, Ladisha, look at the areas in your life where it seems like there's a consistent hard. Look at the areas of your life where they feel barren. And I have to go back to my women in the Bible, and I see that what came from barrenness: power, purpose, and promise. And I have to look, there are specifically at least 2 areas in my life where I say, God, these are areas where time after time after time again, there has been those thoughts of doubt of, is it really going to happen to me? There are those thoughts of, am I really going to see this in my time, in my lifetime? I know you spoke it. I know you said it. I know you said that you had it there, but as pressing and as hard as it is sometimes, I wonder, will I see this? And I have to understand that is my bearing. That's where I hold power. That's where I hold purpose. And that is where I hold promise. And if we continue to hold on, it is a guarantee that we're going to see it. We don't know how long the wait is going to be. And I feel like the greater the WAIT, the greater the WEIGHT that is going to be like that. And as I sat in the house today, and I took a nap and I woke up, and there was one song that came on my mind, that it won't always be like this. It won't always be like this. The Lord will perfect all concerning me. That sooner or later, it'll turn in my favor. It's turning around for me. That is the testimony. That is the truth. And that is the prophetic word. It will not always be like this. There won't always be oppression. There won't always be these things that are against you. It won't always be hard in this area. You won't always have to cry. The Bible says that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Joy comes in the morning. Dancing comes in the morning. Sunshine comes in the morning. And I'm looking at, it's raining right now. It rained earlier and the sun was out, and I told my baby, I said, oh, this is a summer rain. This is one of those rains where the sun is out. It doesn't seem gloomy. It's raining. It's for a great purpose. And today I just had to come on here to say, look, y'all, we made it. As hard as hell as it may have been in these past 6 months, we've made it. What have we made it into? Does it even matter? We've made it to another level of God. And it's not about what you see. It's about what you see. It's not about what you see in the natural eye. It's about what you see in the spirit realm. It's about staying close to God, staying tapped into the spirit and the presence of God, so that the Holy Spirit can come and arrest you and assure you all is well. You are right where you're supposed to be. And just because things don't look like they're working out here doesn't mean that things are not working out up there. Just because it seems like there's a setback in the natural realm does not mean that there is a setback in the spirit realm. There have been many of days where I have continued to remind myself, Ladisha, do not despise small beginnings. Do not despise what you're doing, but you may not see the benefit, and you may not see the effect of it, and you may not see what the reason that God has told you to do it. And I often speak to these videos. I don't know why one day he says live in the now, or live in the now. No edits, no cutting, just go. Some days I feel it, some days I don't, but it's teaching me and it's training me. But it's also this: if nobody watches it, or if one day there's millions that tune in, it won't make a difference for me, because my foundation would not have been built off people. My foundation would not have been built off an audience. My foundation would not have been built off of applause. My foundation will not be built off if somebody shows up or if somebody doesn't. I have to be faithful to what I don't understand. And I have that kind of mind frame of telling myself, one day it's going to look like overnight success, but I'm going to know the truth. Those who know this version of me, those who knew a version of me in the past, they will understand the truth. No, she showed up even when it looked like it didn't matter. She showed up even when it didn't look like it was beneficial. She showed up when it wasn't pretty. She showed up when it wasn't convenient. So whether I get to come on here and I have myself fixed up, or I come on here and I look like I literally just rolled out the bed, I have to do what the Lord told me to do, because I understand I don't know what my obedience is doing. I don't know who my obedience is going to help. I don't know who is randomly going to watch a video one day and they'll be able to say, that helped me, that saved me, that stopped me from throwing in the towel, that stopped me from committing suicide. I have no idea, but I tell you what, I've been that woman, I've been that young girl in every different situation. I wanted to give up. I've wanted to quit. I've wanted to die. I've wanted to commit suicide. I wanted to commit suicide when I was a child because I didn't like the lifestyle that I was living. Let me say this. I didn't like my home life. I don't know what teenager, I don't know what grown woman, I don't know what single mother is saying, LaDisha, I don't know if I can do this. God, I don't know if I can do this. And I'm here to tell you, baby, you don't have a choice but to do it. He gave you those babies for a reason. He gave them to you for a purpose. He might have gave you those children to save you. If I didn't have my children, I don't know where I would be. If I didn't have my girls, but I got into the marriage that I got into, I don't know if I would have made some of the same decisions that I made. I don't know if I would have made some of these same decisions. Let me say this. I don't even know if I would have prayed some of the prayers that I prayed had I not had other people that I knew I had to look out for. You know what? Let me be real honest. If I didn't have the childhood that I had, I don't know if I would have made some of the decisions that I made. And I'm not talking about the bad ones. I'm talking about the good ones. Today, as I got ready in the mirror, and I'm going to be very vulnerable. And I want to say this because I talk through a lot of stuff, but I know that I am very human-like and I'm very realistic, that a lot of us won't share the real thoughts that we have. And so a lot of people feel like they're by themselves. Let me say this. There are things that I chose not to do or not to settle for, or maybe I did settle and I didn't know that I settled, and I decided that I wasn't going to stay in it longer than I had to because of my childhood. One of the thoughts that came to me as I got ready today, and I said, if I go live, I think I'm going to talk about this. So here we go. I'm going to talk about it. I had to be thankful for some of the conversations that, me and my mom had growing up. And this is not like mother-daughter. This is like woman to woman, because I'm an adult now. I'm a woman now. And as you get older and as you mature, sometimes in that moment, you understand a person is talking to you, but it's like, baby, you're talking out the side of your neck, because I do not accept the advice that you're giving me. And it also will show us where a person's mind frame is. I remember, and I don't even know the context of how we got on that conversation, but I remember, at this point I'm an adult, talking to my mother. I was married, I believe. I'd probably separated, but I was in my marriage at that point. I had not divorced. And I remember just the conversation of basically the relationships that my mom had been in, specifically with my dad. And then, her ex-husband, it was like they were men who paid all the bills. She still worked, but with them, they paid all the bills. And it was said to me like it was a flex. But in the back of my mind, I was like, but what did you get out of that? Like, woman to woman. I didn't say this because this, still my mama. But the woman in me didn't understand the context behind the conversation. And I'm just gonna be straightforward. I said out loud today in my mirror, as gangster as I could, and I said, you know what, devil, what you didn't anticipate is I had a stronger mind frame than my mama did. I had a stronger mind frame than my grandma. Like, and I'm not saying this to bash anybody. I'm saying from woman to woman, I think these are the kind of conversations that we need to have. And I'm having to remind myself, you don't owe nobody no apology. Say what you gotta say as long as it's the truth and what's the motive behind it. It's not to be tacky or petty. It's to be honest. We can intentionally or unintentionally teach our young girls things, patterns and habits and cycles, and then we wonder why they're messed up and we wonder why they make the decisions that they make. I had to thank God today and say, I'm glad that I've never had a man take care of me. Not to say that I don't want it, but under the circumstances and the context, I'm grateful that what the women had before me may have been some of the reasons that made them stay longer than they should have. That basically in that conversation, my mother let me know, well, they paid all the bills, but this was my thing. My daddy had how many babies after that? I have a sibling that is maybe 5 or 6 months younger than me, if that. And it would have been less if I would have been born when I was supposed to. We would have actually been closer in age. So in the back of my mind, I was thinking to myself, but what flex is that? He paid all the bills and he was out there playing too. And then I look at the other relationship and it was like he paid all the bills and you almost died. He paid all the bills and there were so many accounts. It was like, but how many babies came out of it? Like, so this morning, and y'all, I don't know where that came from. I was doing my face so I could show up to a meeting. And I sat with that this morning and I was like, God, I'm grateful for the things that I didn't have. But I'm also to the place to where I'm grateful for the childhood that I cried about. The childhood that I didn't understand why I had to go through so much pain. Now I know it was because of promise. It was because of purpose. But it was also because I grew up in a household where God was not the center of everything. And as a woman, as a mother today, I said I'm so grateful that I didn't stay in I'm so grateful that I didn't stay in a marriage. One, I settled. I didn't realize at the time that I was settling, but I think I did. I did, but I didn't know. And I said, but I'm grateful that I was stronger mentally enough to allow myself permission to know you don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to stay in something that you put yourself in, because that's the thing. God didn't put me in it. I did. I had to wait on him to get out of it. But I was honest because I was dying because of something that I put myself in. And so I had to be grateful to say that as a woman, out of the women in my lineage, and especially the women on the women's side, you know, my mother's side, because I don't know too much about my daddy's side, I had to be grateful to say what the enemy didn't anticipate was that mentally I would be stronger. Mentally, I wouldn't deal with the same stuff that they dealt with. Particularly because I lived with it. I was not the girl who said that I wanted to be like my mother in those years of her life. I didn't want to be like my grandmother to a certain context. I wanted the relationship with Jesus. I wanted the faith, but I didn't want to be I didn't want to be weak-minded. And I've never really been weak-minded. I think I was broken. And I had issues that I didn't realize I had. But there was always something about me that said, I see a better way. And I refuse to stay stuck just because I stay stuck. To me, life has never been to the place to where I had to stay in something just because I had been there. Like for me, starting over, it's like, can it be scary? Yeah, but I've been that female, I've been that girl, I've been that woman that says, I would rather risk leaving and finding out if I can survive without it than being too afraid to leave and then never knowing. I left my first real relationship, and that was my statement. I said, as much as it hurts for me to break up with you, I feel like I owe myself the chance to know if I can survive life without you. Because that was a 7-year from 14 to 21. Thought that was my person. I said, I need to give myself permission to know what it's like without you. And I knew this. If I want to come back, I knew I had the option. I said, but a good part of me knew I was going to be just fine. I was going to be able to thrive because I know how I think. That mind frame has gotten me thus far. Do I want to make mistakes? No. Do I want to get it wrong? No. But I'm grateful that I've gotten it wrong when I've gotten it wrong. I'm grateful that I settled in my 20s and that now I can live, my latter years of my 20s up until the rest of my life and know this. I won't settle. I won't settle for a relationship. I won't settle for financial security if that means that I have to die spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. I'm grateful to the place to say I broke the cycle. I'm not going to call it a curse. It could be, but I broke the generational cycle of the woman of, I'm going to stay because there's financial security. I can't say that I can do that because I can say this. The Lord has never allowed it to happen yet. And that was a part of the flex. I said that I can laugh in the enemy's face and say the only man that I can say has provided and taken care of me is God himself. So the one man that I'm going to trust for the rest of my life is God himself. The one person that I know is not going to fumble me is God himself. I don't have to worry about, as a woman, going into a relationship where I'm going to be fumbled because I say, God, I know that I can trust in you. I know that I can wait on you. The women before me, they did what they did. But as for me and my house, I can teach my daughters, don't you go into a relationship simply because financially you think that you're secure. If he can't take care of your mind, if he can't take care of your heart, if he cannot take care of you spiritually, you don't want him. That's my number one. Spiritual security. Can you cover me? If you can't cover me, you can't cover me. If you can't cover me, I don't want to think about anything else. That I want to be one of the first women in my bloodline where they can say she didn't do like everybody else. She didn't stay in the relationship because she didn't know how to start over. She didn't stay because she was afraid. She didn't stay for, yacht. My peace and my children's peace is my number one priority. That I didn't think I was coming on here to talk about relationships, but here we are. That I've told God, I know that marriage is my portion and I know that it's for me. I said, but even if it wasn't, even if I never saw it, I'm not going to buckle. Even if I never saw it, I'm not going to fumble. I'm not fumbling on myself. I'm not fumbling on my peace. I'm not fumbling on my kids. I'm not going to fumble my purpose. I'm not going to fumble my call. And I'm sure not going to fumble God. Because when Ladisha has chosen, I didn't really choose. I guess I accepted. I've never accepted good. But I've never been this version of myself either. And so these are some of the things and the processes that went through my mind. But I think even that was the first conversation that me and the Holy Spirit really had today while I was getting ready. And it's something that as I'm talking in my head is hurting. It's like, I don't care who I upset, God. But I'm also telling the enemy, I really don't care. I don't care if you don't like the conversation. I'm gonna speak it because we as a women have to know our own value. We have to know that God has to be our first choice, our first man, our first husband, our first father. He has to be our everything. And some of us, it's been hard because we are the first. We're different. We've settled in the past and we refuse to settle now. We refuse to stay stuck. We refuse to stay in something that technically we don't have to stay stuck into. And the enemy doesn't like different. The enemy doesn't like change. And I am just one today to tell him, I really don't care. You can suck it up, boo-boo. I don't care. And I want y'all to know the same thing, that if the Lord has promised you something, it is going to come. But if he's promised you something, I don't want you to fall for the counterfeit. I don't want you to get distracted. I don't want you to end the end of this year and you're at peace now, but you're living in hell and sorrow and agony, and you're distraught in December of 2026. Let me tell you, I'm gonna take these off. I was there. This time of the year, 2019, I was at peace. I'd broken up with somebody. I was going on about my business. By December of that year, I was married. By December of that year, I was miserable. By December of that year, I found out I was pregnant. By December of that year, I felt like I was stuck. And I often go back and I you know, as I see old pictures, and I think to myself, wow, it's amazing at how fast things change. It's amazing at how peaceful you can be. And something comes in and you don't even know that it's a distraction, and it sucks all the joy and all the life out of you. And so I'm reminded of my hard season. I'm reminded of my poor decision. And so now I live my life very intentional, that everything that happens, I have to seek the Lord. Everything that comes at me, I have to seek the Lord. If there's a relationship, I have to seek the Lord. And it's any relationship, a friendship, you know, a new conversation here and there. It's like, I need to know, do I need to be your friend? Why? What do you carry? What do you bring? Are you a burden? Are you from God? Are you a distraction? It could be family members. It could be, like I said, it's old people, old relationships, familiar things. Why now? I question, because I've been Jonah. I don't need to allow another Jonah to get on my boat. But I also don't need to let a snake in the garden come and play in my face and have conversation with me when I need to cut them off. Because I don't want to miss what is coming to me. There are great things that are in store. This double portion, this double harvest that has been spoken about since early June up until now, it's there. It's there. And I want to tell y'all, like somebody told me 7 years ago, that there was a distraction. I just want to say, I don't want to say be careful. I say be mindful. Be wise. Pay attention. Don't accept everything that comes your way. Do not accept every door. That just because it looks good doesn't mean that it's going to be God. Learn from your mistakes. And take advantage and learn from other people's mistakes. I was that daughter. I learned from my mama. I took notes. And the little girl that watched things that she should not have seen, she made up in her mind that there would be certain boundaries that she would have in her own life. And because I saw it as a girl, I decided that I wasn't going to stay in it long enough, because I knew exactly what it could lead to. And because of that, I made the decision to say, I will not raise my children up in the same atmosphere, if not worse, than what I came into. And so today, where I used to cry about my childhood, today I rejoice. Today I can say that my childhood was one of my biggest classrooms. I can say, you know, I learned from my mother. I learned some good things, but I also learned some not so good things. And I feel like that's life, the classroom of life. And we can stop crying about what didn't make us feel good, and we can cry about what hurt us. Today, I can say this, I have an empathy for people. Today, I'm that person that says, you know, I see people, I hear people, I see what other people miss out on, I hear what other people don't hear. I can feel what other people may not be able to sense. Why? Because I was that child that felt neglected. I felt abandoned. I felt misunderstood. I felt like I wasn't heard. I felt like I wasn't seen. And because of that, it makes me be intentional with who I am in the relationships with the people that I'm in. It makes me be an intentional mother. It makes me have to remind myself, no, you need to sit down and you need to listen to them. Don't make them be quiet all the time. It allows me to have a perspective, not because of what was done right, but I have a better perspective from some of the areas where I grew up and I came up empty. And because I came up empty, I know the weight and I know the burden to carry empty buckets, or to be empty in an area and not even know that I need a thing, and not even know that I have permission to need it. And so as I've grown, as I continue to heal, as I continue to become whole, I am learning that there are some days where I am more grateful for the things that hurt me. I'm very grateful for things that didn't work out. I am, I'll say this, I'm not grateful that I've gone through a divorce process, but I learned. And it's what I've learned that has made me grateful. I've learned, you know, I've learned from my weaknesses. It showed me things that I didn't know about myself. But the greatest thing that came out of it was this. I went to therapy and I started doing the work that I didn't even know I needed to do. So what's the benefit of that? The benefit is that it didn't kill me. The benefit is that I survived. The benefit is that I sat down, and it not just healed me as a woman. The little girl in me, she went to therapy, and she found her voice, and she learned how to communicate, and she learned how to break barriers, and she learned how to give herself permission to feel and to make decisions. The little girl in me learned how to make boundaries, and because of that, the 32-year-old woman today, she knows how to live. She knows how to thrive. She knows how to speak for herself. She knows how to say no. She knows how to that she no longer has to be a people pleaser. And when she remarries, she's going to be healthy. When she remarries, she's going to know her own identity. When she remarries, she's already going to know her purpose in God. So I just have to look at this and say, you know, we can cry about our childhood trauma. We can cry about, oh, they mismanaged me, they fumbled me, they dropped me. Mephibosheth got dropped. So you may have gotten dropped. Somebody may have mishandled you, but guess what? I have had to, let me be honest. The person that dropped you, could it be that somebody dropped them? The person that mishandled you, could it be that somebody mishandled them? The person that may have neglected you, could it be that somebody neglected them? So they could only give you what they had. It takes a mature place, and it takes forgiveness to be able to be honest and say, you know what, I know that these things happen to me, but I'm not gonna live the rest of my life based off my trauma. I'm not gonna live the rest of my life based off my hurt. I'm not gonna live the rest of my life based off my pain. Yeah, those things happen, but God has still been good since then. Yes, you were dropped, but yes, your parents may not have loved you the way that you should have been loved, but yes, you grew up in that traumatic lifestyle. But when I look at the woman that I am today, and I compare her to the 6-year-old and the 8-year-old and the 12-year-old and the 18 and the 19 and the 24 and the 25-year-old, let me say this. I know that things happened to me that weren't great, but I don't live with the memories anymore. I'm not angry with anybody. I'm not upset with anybody, which is why I love that I can come on here and I can speak. I want to be sensitive about some of the things that I say, because you know everybody's not going to be at the same maturity level. And when I say, when you walk in the walk that God has called me to walk, I still have to be mindful to a certain extent, not as to what I say, but as to how I say things, because I know there are people who watch this and it will hit close to home, because they know me. They know the individuals that I talk about. The strangers, it's going to be easier for me to be my full self and not have to put a filter on it. But I understand that for me to be responsible and respectful, I have to be sensitive with what I say and how I say it. But I just go to say this. We've all had a past. We've all had a background. We've all hurt somebody, or we've all been hurt. It's a part of life. You just have to get to the place to where you grow and you do better, and you stop making the same decisions that you made on yesterday. Because if you keep making the same decisions that you made on yesterday, you're going to keep getting the same results that you got on yesterday. So if today you wake up and you repeat your day, you're going to probably get the same results that you got today. Now, if you like that, great, love it. But if you don't, the change is on you. 32-year-old Ladisha can't sit here and I can't blame an ex. I can't even blame an old broken version of myself for the decisions that I made. I can't blame my parents. I can't blame, my childhood circumstances. It happened to me. What it did to me, it did to me. How it affected me, it affected me. How it affected you, it affected you. Maybe you've been married. Maybe you've been divorced. Maybe it was abusive. Maybe, maybe these different things happen. I say this. Did it happen? Yes. Is it your story? Yes. Is it a part of your past? Yes. And that's what you need to focus on. It's the past. You got to go forward. You don't live there no more. And if this reaches somebody and you're currently living in some of these extenuating circumstances that are not for your good and they're not for your benefit, the only thing that I can tell you is God will make a way. He did it for me. It wasn't easy. It wasn't overnight. I had to make some decisions, and there were some things He didn't have to tell me to do. I knew I needed to get to a safe place. And once I got to a safe place, I had to trust the process. I had to trust everything was going to happen and everything was going to work out. But I also had to be honest with myself and say, God didn't do this. You did this. God didn't put you here. You did. God didn't put you in an abusive marriage. You chose that. So whatever our situation and our level of heart is, childhood may have instilled some things into you, but it is our responsibility as an adult to go learn how to become healthy, learn how to become whole, learn how to walk through healing. Maybe that's therapy, maybe it's a counselor, maybe it's a pastor. I don't know. There's avenues, but it's going to require us to get out of our comfort zone. It's going to require us to do things that we probably never done before. And for somebody, it may require starting over in whatever capacity that is for you. But I just say, as I had one of my teachers tell me, I was an adult at this point, but I remember she messaged me and she said, I want you to know you're not stuck. She said, you're not a tree. You're not stuck. She didn't have to elaborate. I knew what that meant. I knew that just because it felt like it felt in the heat of that moment, when it seemed like life couldn't get any worse, I knew I still had an option. I knew that I didn't have to stay in what was killing me. I didn't have to stay in a place that was destroying me in every capacity possible. Today, I'm free. I'm not bound by anything. My mind is free. My heart is free. My spirit is free. My soul is free. I have the ability to dream. I have the ability to to sleep in peace. There was a day that I didn't even know that hell could show up in your sleep. My house is in peace. There was a time that, y'all, it's like my life went from night to day. One day things were one way and the next, it was like, what? Whoosh. It was like somebody sent a engulfing fire and it just began to burn everything in my life down. But I left and I ran because my life was on fire. And I went to the only safe place that I knew to go to. I went back home. I went back to that mama's home where childhood might not have been so great. But I was so desperate, I went back to the very place that I thought to myself that I would never go back to with my children. But life and circumstances had changed. I had grown. My mother had grown. The relationship had grown. And I allowed myself to do something that at the time, it didn't feel good. But let me tell you something. There was no room for pride. It was either I could have pride or I could have died. Those literally were my two options. But for the safety of myself, for the safety of my children, I decided to do the only thing that I knew to do. That was really the only power that I felt like I had, was to leave everything. Drop everything. and not know what was gonna happen or how long that it was gonna last. But this is what mattered. I knew I couldn't make a decision if I didn't have life anymore. I couldn't make a decision if I lost myself. I couldn't make a decision if mentally I was on the verge of either I don't know if I really would have committed suicide, but I was probably to the place to where I needed to be checked into some type of facility because mentally I was not okay. But I had a mother who, in spite of our differences at the time, home was an option. And I took my time and I started over. Not knowing what I was going to do, not knowing what the rest of my life was going to look like. But I couldn't think about tomorrow. I could only think about one day at a time, one moment at a time, taking care of my kids one day at a time, worrying about, feeding them one meal at a time. That was 2021. This is 2026. So I sit here and I look at my smile, but I'm grateful because mentally, I didn't know that this was possible. Mentally, I didn't know that this could be my life and my future. And as I sit here and I talk about I say an updated testimony, I'll say this. If God brought me through it then, I know He'll bring me through this. He'll brought me through this. He brought me through that. Lord, I'm grateful to you. I'm not going to sing that one, but I can state it. He brought me through that. I know He's going to bring me through this. Lord, I'm grateful to you. Grateful for the journey, grateful for the process. I'm grateful for the pain, because let me say this, if I didn't know pain, I don't know if I would be this grateful for my peace. If I didn't know hurt, I wouldn't have the contrast for what it's like to be whole. I wouldn't know the significance of being healed. And so I am just grateful and I am just honored to God that He allowed me to be where I am. He is allowing me to be who I am. Because if it was up to me, I don't really know if I would be here. And so I'm going to get off of here. I love y'all and I'll be back tomorrow.